Your early 20s feel like you're just grappling at what it means to be an adult, and even though I feel like I'm still learning something new every day, I've also found a lot along the way. Most surprisingly to me though is that these major life lessons that I learned came after I turned 18, and had I learned them earlier and digested them earlier, I feel like I could have eased my emotional turmoil and helped accelerate my findings for a growth mindset. I feel strongly that I am nowhere near where I was 10 years ago, and a lot of that is due to the lessons that I've accumulated along the way. Now I've tried to create this video year after year to try and share those lessons that I've learned with you. This week I turned 21. I want to start making videos that are more meaningful to me, kind of helps with your experience, but I somehow didn't manage to put it out there, and that kind of leads me perfectly into my first point, which is whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you fulfilled is good enough. By nature of how our academic system works, we are conditioned to constantly try and chase what someone else deems as perfect or good enough. With your grades, you seek validation through your teachers. With your clothes, you seek validation through your trends. And with enjoyment, you might turn to your peers to calibrate whether or not it's worthy for pursuing. But what if you put your interests first and their opinions second? If you look closer, you might notice that you're hesitant on doing what makes you happy because you're looking left and right to see whether or not what makes you happy is the right choice. Now, you might even ask, like,
what does that even mean?
How can something that makes you feel fulfilled be wrong for you, right? And that's exactly my point. It's subjective, so no one else can tell you whether or not it's right or wrong to pursue. You just do it because it makes you happy. So take this video for example. Like, this is my first time actually putting it out there, even though I've tried to make this over and over again because I was like,
I don't know if this is like the right thing to do.
But it just makes me happy, so here we are. My point here is that don't let other people give you permission for what is rightfully your enjoyment. It doesn't have to play by anyone else's definition of what it means to be cool, successful, or happy. As long as it fulfills you, then that is good enough. And I'm willing to bet that even if your immediate circle don't share that same experience as you and don't share the same enjoyment as you, that there are so many other people out there who do. Number 2, it's all relative.
And it's all relative.
Whatever drama llama that you are going through right now will pass, and here's the important part: if you let it. I choose my words very carefully when I say that, because when people are like,
oh, just stop caring?
That's not entirely possible, right? We all care. It is in our evolution, it is in our DNA to care for what other people's opinions are of ourselves. But the point is that you can just decide to take it with a grain of salt, or you can decide to let it weigh heavy on you. You will always care about what other people think, but it's what you do with that matters, okay? Your loved ones versus someone on the street, like, how much do their words matter, and how much of that will you let sit with you? I remember when I was younger, a lot of people would be like,
none of this is gonna matter when you're older.
And though there might be some truth to that, I feel like you still feel a little bit impotent when you're in that situation and you're like, okay, I get that this doesn't matter, but like, what do? I'm still in this situation, I can't get out of it. If you don't feel like you would take advice from that person, if you don't feel like those people have the best intentions for you, why would you take their other words to heart?
Your booze mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
People will talk no matter what age you are. It's not just confined to your teenage years, so it's not something that you can completely avoid in life in general, right? But you can decide to take yourself out of the situation. You can decide to not feed the energy there, because it's honestly a waste of your time, and it's not your job to change their opinion. Take a moment to decide what your own values are, what your opinions are, especially of yourself, so that when someone else comes into your life and they try to rock the boat, it doesn't shake. You're not going to tip over, because you know how you sit within yourself. Number 3, learning is not just for school. The goal isn't just to graduate, it's to have more tools under your belt to boost you towards your version of success. I know that as a student, I wouldn't have concerned myself with this point, because you can so easily feel like you're just on survival mode. Your whole goal is to just get in, get the grades, and then get out. And while I think this is fine as your game plan, I encourage you to make space to learn something that genuinely interests you. For so long as a student, I thought that there was something wrong with me because I just couldn't care less about anything that I was learning academically. The closest thing that I got to that was biology, and then I became a bio major, and then that just didn't work out because I just didn't have a true passion for it. I mean, I have a lot of interest for it, but I think interest and passion are two different things, and one can only take you so far. So when you can find the middle ground between the two, I think you can really flourish. So while I had an interest in biology, my passions just didn't end there. I wanted to explore different things, different aspects further. There are a plethora of topics that you can go through and learn about in this world, and if you're not sick of hearing this yet, there is something for everybody. And if you don't know what that is yet, I really encourage you to go out and find it, because once you're done with school, that topic of interest is going to drive you towards where you want to be and the person who you want to be for the rest of your life. And it'll make your life a lot more interesting, because school includes like hobbies and your peers and like the social network that comes with it that innately drives you towards finding other people's interests. And I think that's fine, because sometimes through other people's interests, you find exactly what you enjoy. But there are cases where you are distracted and you're following someone else's path, and while they're refining what they like, you are getting really sucked into their world and you don't stop and think about, wait, actually, do I even like this? Number 4, be curious more than you are afraid, or just be curious and afraid. I used to be a stickler for plans, and I was incredibly comfortable in my cozy nook of what I thought was my identity. While I am still a planner today, I will say that curiosity has been the cornerstone of major shifts in my life. If there's been something on your mind that you've been wanting to dive deeper into, whether it be making a new friend, trying out a new instrument, or even being in front of a camera, put more emphasis on the part of you that is curious about it than the part of you that's afraid of it. Something that I read a while ago that really changed the way that I looked into fear is that nervousness and excitement are two sides of the same coin. So the next time that you have hesitation towards something that you really want to try out and you feel really nervous and you feel almost inhibited by that nervousness, flip the switch in your head and flip the narrative in your head and understand that actually, I think this is my body telling me that I'm kind of ready for this, and it's just that nervous jitters. And I feel like having that mindset is kind of a good trigger to switch the situation from a negative one to a positive one. As I was going through the topics for this video this week, I came across a quote in a book that I'm going to read to you right now, and it's like perfect for this part. If the greatest enemy of self-confidence is fear, the greatest enemy of human achievement is the comfort zone. When you decide to break the boundaries of your own comfort zone, you learn something new, you create a new milestone in your life, and you just get out of your own head. And when you get out of your own head long enough, you get to taste the taste of what you genuinely want to pursue in life. And if you're scared to do it, I say do it scared. I don't know if you've heard that before, but I feel like that's such an empowering mindset to have. Even if you're scared, do it anyways. Do it scared. Sometimes what helps is to compartmentalize, okay? You understand this is your fear talking, but your feet can still walk forward. So even if you have the fear and you're staring into the fear and you're like, oh, I don't know, can I make this video? Can I be in front of the camera? Do it, sit down, feel the fear, but stay in front of the camera anyways, and talk until you're not afraid anymore, or do it over and over again until you're not afraid anymore. That's how I'm here today. I'm here in front of the camera, but it was weird at first. It was scary at first, and I'm like, wait, you're a lens. To me, you're a lens, right? But on the other side, you're like, you're a person, and that's what helps me figure this out, right? And you have to have those anchors for yourself. Understand why you're doing it. Adaptability is your best friend, whether or not you know it. And every time your actions are aligned with what you want to do, you get to feel proud of yourself. You get that moment of self-confidence where you're like, oh, actually, I can do it. And then it recycles, because then you just get more curious. You're like, what else can I do with my life? What else can I try? If I got to learn that instrument and I was actually good at it, or even if you're not good at it, even if you just tried it, you didn't like it, you put it down, then you're like, wait, actually that wasn't so bad. Then your curiosity gets bigger and bigger than your fear and bigger than your hesitation towards what you want to do. 5, find a mentor as soon as possible, and not just any mentor. Finding a mentor who you look up to is crucial for your growth. When I was younger, I used to think that a mentor was just someone who was older. So when I was in school and I got paired with someone who was older, I thought, okay, brilliant, they're going to teach me everything I need to know, and that was about it. But after a while of being with them, I felt like I just wasn't going to follow their path. I wasn't inspired by them, and that's the most important part. A mentor is someone who you're not only inspired by, but who is also a role model to you. Someone who is achieving the things that you want to achieve, going after the path that you want to follow, or has the characteristics of the person that you want to be. When you have someone who's a mentor to you, you have a more clearer understanding of what it is that you're aiming for. You can kind of pick apart, or even ask them, if you can, communicate with them, like, what is it that they're doing that is different from where you currently are? Are they they doing certain things, getting certain resources? What is it about them that you really like that you want to incorporate in your own life? I also used to think that a mentor has to be someone in your immediate community. There's a vast amount of resources out there. There are so many teachers nowadays who are online who can inspire you in a different way. I didn't really feel like I found people in my immediate community that were that person for me. And then I went to college and then I met more people and that became like a different story there. So it doesn't even have to be someone you specifically know, someone you can like one-on-one talk to help inspire this new version of you that you want to become. 6. Being different is cool AF. Embrace it even if no one else will. It might be weird to be different in school, but it's what makes you so incredible out of it. In school, it's hard to want to be different because you can so easily feel outcasted and feel like you're sticking out like a sore thumb. It's in our evolutionary nature to be and act like those around us because we needed to conform to survive. And honestly, high school and even life can sometimes feel just like that, survival. But seriously, the more peculiar your interests are, the more unique you are. And these differences are or will be appreciated over time. I love when I meet people who have interests or do things that I've never even thought about or heard of. People who are into marine biology, or people who are like really into board games, even like someone who is a beekeeper, for example. Like that is so interesting because you don't meet these people in your everyday life, because people go in all sorts of direction in life. And when you meet someone who is kind of like out of the ordinary a little bit, especially when you're like out of school, I think in school it's a little bit harder to appreciate that, but the minute you're out of school, it just gets really repetitive when you meet the same people in the same field, in the same industry, and they're doing the exact same things that you heard over and over again. You want to meet people who have completely specifically peculiar interests. You aren't going to be memorable if all you want to do is just blend in with the crowd, right? There's a reason why people who blend in don't stand out. Think about what you're giving up. The opportunity cost of blending in is having this uniqueness about you that makes you exactly who you are. But when you're so adamant about what you enjoy in life, people will naturally be more drawn to you, your story, your background, because unless you're one in a million where nobody has the same interests as you, or like you have a very hard time finding that crowd, most of the time people will really want to hear your story. People will really appreciate where you're coming from and what you have to offer. But only in the case where you have so much passion for what you do or what you enjoy, what you love, and you're not afraid to be different because of it, that's where you get to share that passion with other people who are actually there, sitting in front of you, trying to understand and trying to learn and trying to listen to more of what you have to say. And it's at that moment that you'll probably find your tribe, your like-minded people, and then you can all immerse in the same topic of interest. Speaking of learning, the 7th major lesson is learning to be alone is inevitable. The sooner you can learn to be by yourself, the sooner you can find and discover the wonders of it. I think I had the most growing pains with this lesson and the next one because I just didn't understand what could come of it, the benefits from it, and I had a really hard time wrapping my head around this. In high school, you all have this collective goal. It's to graduate. So even if you're outcasted in the community, you still have this link, something that ties you all together, something that helps you sympathize with each other. But once you're out of school, you don't have really that strong bond or strong connection to any kind of community, because this is where everyone gets really busy with their own lives, and you and your actions is going to dictate how your story goes. This unavoidably leaves you with a lot of alone time.
'Cause I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me.
There are a lot of people that still struggle with this concept. So if you are still struggling with trying to see the beauty in being alone, I will link this video over here where you can see the art of being alone and like why it's amazing and like what you can do during your time. Number 8, and this one's kind of difficult to say, but loving yourself isn't cringy, it's necessary. This would have been a lifeline for my struggles when I was a teen, because I was caught between a place of like pretty low self-esteem and a toxic normalization of it being cool to not love yourself. From what it looks like on social media though, it seems that self-care and self-love have just become a very blown up topic in these last couple of years. So hopefully more teens and young people kind of adapt that into their mentality. Let me know in the comments if that is true for young people, like if that mentality has changed and now it's like the coolest thing to love yourself and have that support for other people around you. I don't know, but I remember when I was younger, it just like wasn't really talked about at all. Even if you find it really uncomfortable to get to a point where you can love yourself, I say it's necessary necessary because there are so many people who still struggle with it today. But once you get a taste of it, I feel like you can kind of understand how healing it can be. And what's cringy is if other people around you have coated themselves in self-love and you're still using your toxic coping mechanisms to converse with people. It's very, very obvious when people don't love themselves and they weave it into the relationships around them, consciously or subconsciously.
Well, it's no wonder you don't have any friends.
Wow. Only a true friend would be that truly honest.
When you learn that it's a necessity and put self-care as a priority, everything around you changes. Starting from how you treat yourself to how you treat others, how you bring value into your community, it just spreads. And I don't think there's an end point for people to like care about themselves and love themselves. It's not like when you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, okay, I've reached this point of self-love and I can completely be healed and understand everything and I'm gonna be like the nicest person in the world. That's not how it works. But if you can even get yourself off the ground, even just begin to put in that effort, I feel like you'll see the biggest difference in your life. And like people around you will notice it too, right? People, positive things and positive people attract other positive people. I used to look at happy people and it's just like, what? I genuinely thought they were faking it. Like I genuinely thought that state of mind, that state of presence was fake, like it didn't exist. I just couldn't understand like why they were faking it, but they were. I was so convinced of that because I couldn't see it. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't even imagine myself at that place of like, oh, they see color. For us, cringy, okay, that was kind of cringy, but like they see the world differently.
I can open your eyes.
It's so easy to see life as lifeless. It's so easy to see the darkness in everything because it takes genuine effort. Like those people, I understand now. Those people who are happy, preppy all the time, put in effort every day to decide to be that way. Especially when you're younger, especially when you're a teen, there's so much against you because of hormones, because you don't want to be there half the time. You don't really care about what you're learning, which is also why I made the point of like, go out and find what you love. When everything else is stuck in that way, you feel like there is nothing you can do. And I'm saying you can. Put in the effort and choose to view life at a different point, and I swear it changes. There are people who are in dire need of this encouragement, which leads me to my next lesson, which is encouragement is highly underrated. Especially when you're in school, the number of times that you're pitted against each other, whether it's in academics, team sports, social politics, it's so much that you kind of get dragged into that mentality of like competition. And if you don't get the best grades or the best something, then you're in some way lacking. An example of this is that in school and even now, I'm like terrible at numbers. So maths was like the worst topic for me. And I struggled every single day in that class. It was so horrible. I never wanted to show up and I always left feeling so miserable. And I had a teacher who knew that, and every day I would sort of get like picked on. And one day I was so done and I felt so defeated. And suddenly this person in my class who is the smartest kid, like top two, one of the two smartest kids in my class, comes over to me, and he was my friend. And after class, I was like sobbing. I was in tears. He's like, it's okay, I'll help you out here and like we can sort this out. And I'll never forget that moment, because it was in that moment where he decided to show up and show encouragement to me and show support. And essentially it just made my life less miserable. It made me feel a little safer in that class to slowly learn at my own pace. There's this quote that I heard last year. I believe it was by Gloria Antanmo, and she says that you can either be the person to light someone else's candle or you can blow it out. And that day, he decided to help me and light my candle, and I in turn probably helped more people in other ways, or empathize. At least now I can understand what it means when someone extends a hand, and it's so greatly appreciated, even if you don't understand it, because I guarantee you he did not understand my struggles, right? He was just like this math genius. And that moment meant more to me than he probably realized. Be the person that is supportive, that is welcoming, that's helpful. By reaching out to someone, you'll also learn more about them. You gain more perspective and expand your horizons on the different types of personalities that exist out there. I may not excel with numbers, but I excel in different areas that other people might struggle with. Number 10, there is a lesson in all events. Learn to develop an eye for it. There are always takeaways in any given circumstances. That much I'm sure you have heard, but what I've noticed is that not everyone can see the lesson right away. You kind of go through the motions a lot of times, especially when it's a difficult situation that you don't particularly want, that you didn't invite into your life, that could even be shocking to you, and you're like, what happened. And then you ruminate in it and you forget that out of all of this, there is something that you're meant to learn. I am a true believer that when a lesson comes back over and over again in your life, it just means you didn't learn your lesson yet. They may take on different forms, but it's still the same lesson to learn. I think the sooner you can understand what it is, the more harmonious you'll feel. And of course, that's way easier said than done because a lot of times it's very emotional. Just try to identify, like, what is it that I'm supposed to know about this? Because I truly feel like once you do figure that out, you have a much higher chance of not repeating this situation again. Your life shouldn't have to get to those extreme points in order for you to finally take a step back and be like,
what's going on here?
So those are the 10 lessons that I wanted to share today, but here is a bonus one. Be true to who you are. Nothing will stifle your self-confidence like the lack of integrity to yourself. You will never stop growing, so who you are today won't be who you are next year, and it won't be who you are in the next decade. So when I mean be true to who you are, I don't mean stop expanding your horizons. I just mean remember who you are in terms of your values. Like, what do you care about? You are always improving, so these values might change over time, and that's fine. Life is a constant journey of trying to figure out who we are and who we want to be, but when you can find something that is very, very close to what you want, you can feel very liberated by it, and I think everyone deserves to have that in their life. Obviously, you can still learn these lessons past your youth and past your teenage years. There are so many adults that I know that have yet to learn these lessons for one reason or another, didn't get the opportunity to when they were younger. So if you are here right now and this video has helped you and it has resonated with you in some way, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more. Let me know in the comments if you have learned any of these lessons and they've helped you in the past. Let me know if you have stories, because I love reading people's life stories, and again, it's just very interesting when you have different people around. And let me know if there are lessons in here that have helped you today that you're going to carry with you from today onwards. Thanks for being here, thanks for listening, and go create something that you're proud of. See you next time. Bye. And chase their passions